everybody's favorite moment of the week, which is called Dave Meltzer's Dumb Moment of the Week. It's got to be like Dave Meltzer's dumb compilation of the week, really, because we got I don't know, but Dave Scherer, who's been on, who we covered on this show quite a bit, says, I just was asked why I keep commenting on Dave Meltzer's stupidity. Here's why. He has scary influence on @TonyKhan. Tony books to him. And this is a guy, by the way, who Dave lied about in his publicly and then got mad at him for saying, why did you talk about me publicly? And the guy's like, fucking talked about me. So he has scary influence on Tony Khan. Tony books to him. Dave doesn't care about Tony. He just wants to be right on what he likes being a draw. And these guys were friends before, by the way. Okay, so it's not like this guy's talking out of his ass. I want AEW to grow and get a huge big money deal. And I just wanted to clear that, because Dave Scherer, I'm always showing him on the show and he's talking shit on Dave, but he's coming from a place. It's like when you get called an AEW fucking hater and you're like, you got to defend it. Everyone has to defend it. I'm getting tired of it. Like, well, I want AEW to succeed, but it's like, yeah, we want it to succeed, or I wouldn't watch the shit, you know?
I want AEW to succeed because it's great for my channel.
Yeah, true that. There's a lot of people like that too. @Meltzer said what? One of the goats. He posted one of his all-time favorite clips of Dave's voice cracking.
That was a joke, by the way. Don't at me. It was a joke.
When he says Tony Khan. And so here's just his favorite clip, one of his all-time. And we bow down and we stand, Meltzer said what, folks, here on the show.
You know, and I guess I did hint at it when he lost power in NXT and they, you know, kind of took it away, took the direction and made it their direction, not his. But it's like, okay, for 15, 20 years, we've all been told when Vince gives it up, whenever that will be, that Paul will be the guy. And, you know, and that was fine. He's a smart guy. You know, there may be stuff that he'll learn, you know.
Triple H is a smart guy.
Brilliant take there, Dave.
Didn't work on the bigger stage. It did work on the smaller stage. But, you know, there's always stuff to learn. As a general fundamental, you know, whatever, general fundamental wrestling booking, understanding wrestling, he's pretty good. So
Dave,
it was like, okay, that's cool. Good. But now it's like, you know, like, who do we got? You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, I know smart guys, but they're not like, you know, they haven't been put in that situation. And like with WWE, the last time they tried this was Paul and Vince, and you know, because they had done it in the past. I mean, not Paul and Vince, Paul and Eric Bischoff, and you know, neither of them lasted for very different reasons.
What is this cadence he's speaking in?
Bro, and it's just like Dave knows better than the greatest bookers and is explaining why they all lasted. Dave, motherfucking, there's nothing dumber than Dave talking about being smart.
Only
his arrogance is astounding. His arrogance. Yeah. Just like talking about like, well, you know, there's a lot to learn about wrestling booking there, Triple H. Like, yeah, he's gonna learn it from you. It's like I love when Ole Anderson cooked him. When Ole Anderson was like, oh, I should be taking some yeah, I should be taking booking advice from the great Dave Meltzer. You booked so many successful shows, haven't you?
Yeah, we played that on the show, dude. That's a legend. When Ole passed, that's what we played on the show for the Dave Meltzer.
And Jerry Jarrett, who's closing in on 80 years old. He's older. I think he's older than Vince. And Bill Watts, who's obviously not going to be doing that, who's 83 years old now and is not going to, you know what I mean? It's like,
Jesus, why would you even bring Bill Watts up?
Yeah, Bill Watts is a great contender in 2024 or 2022 when this was talked about to take over wrestling. But come on, Bill Watts is my favorite of all time. But let's be real here.
Guys, Tony Khan. Who else, right?
Who is it? Bill Watts or Tony Khan?
Guys, Tony Khan.
Oh my God, what is that?
Who Bill Watts or Tony Khan? Like, how do you even say them in the same breath and say it like that too? Like, you
well, I mean, Jim Ross did say that, you know, Tony Khan reminds him so much of Cowboy Bill Watts.
No,
I was like, wow, are you trying to get another $1 million? Like, why would you say that?
Did JR say that for real?
Oh, dude, yeah, I've screen capped it, and I tweet it all the time. I pointed it out a lot. Like, it is a thing that Jim Ross said. Jim Ross compares, he's like, oh, well, because the Cowboy, he'd like to talk to people about their storylines and stuff. No, the Cowboy, from what I understand, Jim, and you should know this having been there, and I've heard this from you, the Cowboy told you what you were doing. That's what I've always heard JR say. The Cowboy told you what you were doing. Jeez. I don't think Tony Khan tells people. From what we heard from Alvarez, people are able to tell Tony Khan, no, I don't want to do that. And he goes, okay. Oh, I'm going to find it and put it in the private chat. Hold on.
Yeah, you got to, man. Jesus, that's crazy. I never knew that.
Here, it is my favorite thing to talk about.
This is well, we'll let Dave finish up here, and yeah. Well, you get the clip. Tag me on X or just throw it in the chats. Or
I can throw it in the private chat.
Yeah, here we go.
It's not gonna, you know what I mean? It's like who, like the best guys, Tony Khan. Who else, right? it's like who are you gonna get? To
Oh, sorry, I just shut it up. But yeah, that's hilarious, bro. That's so funny.
God.
And then so this person at Switchblade says, it's stuff like this that makes people want AEW to fail. And it's Dave Meltzer saying, not just lots. Okay, so 6 Dot says Bischoff and Co. lost far more money than I'm sure Tony Khan is even close to.
Because they were making more money. They were making more money.
There was more to lose. And not only that, they also did more in a shorter amount of time. It's like Michael Jordan. LeBron can have all these stats, but Jordan did it. He started in the league later, and he retired earlier, dude. He did everything in a littler.
That's like saying that somebody who fell from the first rung of a ladder and like booped the heel. Like, oh, well, they fell far less than that guy who was standing at the top of the ladder and fell off it.
And so Bischoff focuses on 83 weeks because his salary, blah blah blah, is probably it's dictated by whatever. But Dave Meltzer says,
their big thing now is that they think WWE is paying Eric Bischoff to bury AEW. I'm like, I'm pretty sure YouTube. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Conrad and YouTube are paying him for that.
Right, but also like FTR and them push that conspiracy notion, like, oh, I know you're getting paid by the other guys. That's what fucking Dax tweeted to Eric Bischoff. Like the other day, we covered it on the show. This is like a few days ago or whatever. So like you have the wrestlers themselves in AEW also pushing that conspiracy that like Cornette and fucking Bischoff must be getting paid by WWE to talk shit about them. So that's really fucked too. And that's why like you can't almost even blame the fans when the wrestlers are doing it too. That's the problem, and that's what everybody tries to bring up. Like, it's Tony Khan, it's the wrestlers who've never been there or are bitter about being there who then take shots. Like, I'll hear FTR take shots at WWE if they want. I'll never listen to Eddie Kingston talking about, over there, and I'm never listening. You never could make it there, bro, so don't even talk about it. But yeah, it's crazy to see all these wrestlers, like, and you just blew my mind with Jim Ross saying, "Oh, he reminds me of Bill Watts." I had no idea he said that. That's fucking insane. That's money talking. I will in just a moment here. But yeah, so then Dave responds and goes like, not just lost more money than WCW, let's say whoever, but left the company in such shape that it was sold for $2.5 million. What percentage of AEW could you buy for $2.5 million? Hint: it's 0%, bro. No one. Dave, do you believe that someone would pay $2 billion just because Tony Khan's dumb enough to pay $40 million for ROH? AEW wouldn't even get bought for $40 million. What the fuck you talking about, dude? Crazy to me. Crazy amounts of coke. Is it a video?
No, it's an article.
Oh, it's an article. Okay. So yeah, Jim Ross notes similarities between Tony Khan and Cowboy Bill Watts. This was posted in 2022. As a guest on the J Mart and Ramon podcast, AEW commentator Jim Ross spoke about his boss Tony Khan and why he reminds him of his mentor Cowboy Bill Watts.
Wasn't this around the time when JR was getting pulled off TV? Was this around that time, or did that already happen, or had not happened yet? Because this feels to me like the placating, because I have heard that the thing to do in AEW when you want to get on TV is you go on Twitter or you go on a podcast and you just preach the praises of Dia Lita Tony Khan, and that gets you that gets you on TV. Basically, that's why Dax does it.
Was 20, I'm trying to think, like the pandemic, let's say, when did that run till? How long did that run go for?
It's the season finale of the pandemic was sometime in early 2022, I think. Or I think by
Okay,
Christmas
so
2021 we were probably pretty much okay.
So this is February 2022, and so around this time, like when it was like, I think a little bit of fans were allowed to come back, Brandon Cutler and those guys buried Jim Ross was around this time, I think, where Brandon Cutler and them were like, because Jim came out also and said like, oh, it doesn't make sense if you dive on someone, because that was like near the end of the pandemic, I want to say, where that happened. So
I think I think wasn't the first WrestleMania with fans again in 2021. Oh, was that?
I don't remember. That whole time it's so weird. Such a weird period.
But still, yeah, they freaked out at him about that, and then they all freaked out at him because he said, someone asked him, "Who do you think is the greatest wrestler in the world today?" And he said Randy Orton and not Kenny Omega. And everyone and Jericho flipped his shit, and all the AEW fans flipped this shit, and Kenny Omega was like, "Oh, I'm not going to listen to someone who thinks I'm the WWE champion." Because because
he called
JR said, he called him the WWE champion at one point.
Jesus, man, Jim's such a legend. And he says, what I've noticed about Tony Khan is that he reminds me of Cowboy Bill Watts, and as much as Tony will confide and converse and pick the brain of his talent, Ross said. It's no different than putting together a game plan with a football player. Same deal. Here's our plan. Here's what we think. Here's what we think that if we execute, we will win. Tony is still such a great fan, but he picks the brains and gets the contributions of a lot of talent, by God. Bill Watts told me a year ago he'd bring these big villains in because he was a big 300-pound babyface cowboy. And he would bring in these monster heels to work with him. They'd beat everybody in the territory, and they'd get to the cowboy, and that's where the big main events were, and they'd have... What the fuck is he talking about, dude? Yeah. Okay, Bill was interested in a philosophy with a lot of stuff. Tony does the same thing. If he's going to do something with Jon Moxley, for example, you can bet your sweet ass that Jon Moxley is involved. If he's going to do something with Jon Moxley, for example, you can bet your sweet ass that Jon Moxley is involved.
Yes, because Jon Moxley has creative control.
What? He has contributed to the creativity of his presentation, and if you shut your talent out and you're so corporate, there's a problem there for me. I think Tony's doing a good job there listening to the talent, and we've got some talents that are invested now. It's an exciting time to be there. I'm the oldest guy there. Yeah, it sounds like a gym. Not to take shit.
But like look, and obviously I'm not gonna like fight JR on like things that Bill Watts did because I've never met the man, obviously, and he was his protege. But I have a hard time imagining Bill Watts like sitting down with the talent and being like, pitch me storyline ideas. I always kind of like heard that he was the guy that was like, this is what you're doing. Go out there and do it and make me money.
Yeah, man.
I said this. I remember. When this dropped, I remember I sent it into Cornette because I wanted to ask Cornette like if there's any truth to this, and they didn't read it on the show. So,
Davey. He believes that WWE Backlash 2024 main event between Cody Rhodes, speaking of storylines, and AJ Styles is a match that Vince McMahon would have never booked. Dave says they did not book the most attractive business main event, which is usually something WWE would do. They booked a main event to get Cody Rhodes over in a great wrestling match. What the fuck, Dave? That's what they do with everyone. There were far bigger stars they could have put that would have been pushed, that would have drawn more viewers. Did you hear that crowd, Dave? Who the fuck would have drawn more viewers? Oh man, they're penetrating the business, right? It's the same model Endeavor's done with the UFC. It's the same thing, man. You just do a little show there, a littler one, and then then look how big it was without any of the big shit, and then they come back there with the big shit next time or the next time.
I truly scoff, like, because around the time where like all the Vince's dark deeds were exposed, they bring in Dave Meltzer as like this Vince McMahon expert. Like, I'm sure they've talked at some point in time, but I would, how is he a Vince McMahon expert? It's, I don't know.
Wasn't he like on the Maury show or some shit? They did the steroid scandal was going on. They were on like Jerry Springer or Sally Jesse Raphael together or something. Like Dave was brought on the show with I think Vince McMahon to talk about the steroid scandal or whatever. Either way, man. But bigger shows. But AJ was picked because he's a guy to have a good match. He wasn't picked because he's a big draw in that spot. So you're just shitting on AJ? Like, I don't get it, man. It's a difference in philosophy. You can argue if it's good or bad, but it's a difference in philosophy. Vince would have never picked a main event based on match quality on a pay-per-view, but Levesque did. So are you giving him his flowers?
When it comes to Dave Meltzer, I have never seen someone in my life who starts more sentences without any idea how he's going to finish them.
Dude, I know. And like, so he's shitting on AJ and then putting over Triple H, but then it's like, he's like, is it a good thing or a negative thing? Obviously, it's a good thing for Dave because he likes the match quality, but it's almost like Dave is trying to, it's okay, this is where I'm going with this. It's like he's trying to put him goddamn self over because he likes the match quality. So he's like, well, look what Levesque did, and I'm going to just speak this bullshit rambling nothing to try and get over the fact that match quality is what, like, I don't know, Dave. It's very simple. You know, he lied about Roman and Cena. Oh, they won't go to Saudi with anything small. And then Roman and Cena never fought because, like, yes, dude, they, I don't know, especially in Paris, they would have watched Rhea Ripley in the main event. They would have watched that tag team match in the main event. They would have watched any fucking main event. They were so hot for everything. Could have been Liv Morgan and Ronda, and they would have put it over.
With the exception of what was it, Aleister Black's stable from the Final Testament? They were the only ones on SmackDown who just came out to dead silence.
So Dave Meltzer on AEW's angle involving Tony Khan and the Elite, he says if they had done this angle 2 years ago, it would have been a huge success. But right now, because AEW is considered uncool by a lot of people, when you're uncool, even when you do good stuff, it doesn't work. Yeah, you know a lot about that, Dave, don't you? Nearly as well, especially when you're a deep number two. And a lot of people were like, deep number two. That's what I think when I watch Dynamite and shit like that. People just wrote, especially with, so he's burying AEW, but he's also saying, he's also basically saying if they would, to me, Will Ospreay's his new favorite golden boy, right? So fucking Kenny is in this angle,
Kenny Omega is
not Will, so
Kenny
he's
Omega's
hating on it. Yeah, because he was probably like, well, you should go with Will. I think Will would be great for this angle. That's what he's probably telling Tony, and Tony's like, no, we got to go with Kenny or something, and now he's just hating on Kenny. It seems like he's been hating on Kenny more and more ever since Kenny's been kind of letting it slip that he...
Yeah, Kenny says a bunch of stuff about the 5-star matches and that he thinks he gives them out too much or something.
And that's obviously Ospreay has to be some of those, and you know, fucking Dave psychoanalyzing it like that and going crazy like that. So Dave just, I don't know, talking out of his bum cheeks, especially here with this one as well. WWE currently has no big time direction for Cody Rhodes until the Rock and Roman Reigns return, and this is because this just shows you what Dave thinks of AJ Styles. Like, this wasn't just a shoehorned in angle. Like, it was kind of quick, but with the draft and everything that was kind of going on, Cody's new on SmackDown, like, it all made sense. Like AJ's vocation, if you will, was like, I want to get that title. You know, he was more mad at LA Knight than he was the Bloodline, for instance. Like, and he explained why. So this all actually makes sense if you pay attention, Dave. But Dave thinks so little of AJ and this Backlash show. And then he thinks so little of, he's just undermining everything they're doing. And he really thinks after this last year in WWE, even with the power struggle between Vince and Triple H, that they don't have direction or what they're doing the whole next year mapped out. Is that why Tonga Loa showed up, Dave? You fucking asshole. WWE currently has no big time direction for Cody Rhodes until the Rock and Roman Reigns return. One option is Randy Orton, but they are not teasing that direction right now. Then how is that one option is this, but they're not even teasing that right now. So I just made that up because they'd fucking anyone. I could just go, well, I think they'll do this, and then I think they'll do this. Fuck's sakes, man. It drives me.
That's what he does. Anyone could make these predictions just by watching the TV.
It's just so silly, man. It's so dumb. And then to think to really, Dave's so out of touch. He thinks that there's no big time direction for Cody. What do you mean until SummerSlam? Like, what do you want? Like, God damn it, it just drives me nuts, dude. Obviously, like, they have plans, man. Look at the whole last year. You can't tell me that they would just put the strap on Cody because the fans wanted it, and then they didn't have any idea what they're gonna do after.
Like WrestleMania 40 ended, and then Triple H was like, "Oh no, now what do I do?"
Yeah, dude. Yes, and then so here's him with more bullshit on Cody, lying through his teeth. Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman convinced both Vince McMahon and Paul Levesque last year to change the Mania 39 finish to Roman Reigns defeating Cody Rhodes. Then why didn't you report that last year, Dave? Why didn't you say that before? Utterly ridiculous. Why didn't you say that last year, bud? And so he goes on to say one idea that was being discussed in WWE before WrestleMania XL was to see The Rock defeat Roman Reigns for the WWE title. Then
hold on, Phil.
Yep.
Before you go, this one's real.
Okay, but listen. They want to see The Rock defeat Roman Reigns for the title, then give up the title to go back to Hollywood. So one of the ideas that was being discussed in WWE before. Okay, so now you're telling me that's real, Marv. Let's hear.
I've heard. So I have heard from someone that I trust. The idea was that the Rock pitched it, that The Rock wins the title and then gives it up, and then that's when he takes out the People's Championship belt and is forever the People's Champion because he won the belt but then gave it away. And so it basically proved to. So yeah, I don't know how it went over or if it was ever even considered. In my opinion, that's a pretty quick Triple H. Nope.
Yeah.
But I mean, he still had to get his belt, from Mrs. Muhammad Ali.
Exactly. But you know what? That's not like that's not outside the realm of pro wrestling, what The Rock pitched there. But here's the thing. One of the ideas that was being discussed, we don't know. All I was going to say before was we don't know how seriously that was discussed, and ideas get lobbied around all the time. Yeah. That was my criticism.
I just know that was actually pitched. That was pitched.
Yeah. And that's very like WWE. It wouldn't even fucking Andre did that, won the title and gave the shit up. So there are people in WWE who are resentful of The Rock for him claiming that wrestling was cool again following his return. No one can say anything bad about him publicly, but there are people who are very resentful of him going like, I came back and wrestling is cool after WWE had a tremendous year. And the idea that he's kind of trying to take credit for this resurgence that happened a year before he came back. Did the resurgence happen a year before he came back? Yeah, the title wave was definitely waving, but he definitely pushed it over the limit, and we're seeing that effect a little bit now. Same with Roman.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. Are people resentful to The Rock? I doubt anyone who got that WrestleMania paychecks very resentful to anybody. But
that's your the thing. Everyone just cares about their money. Like at the end, like JR says it all the time: cash and creative. That's it. Look, I believe that maybe there was some people that were left off the WrestleMania card that weren't happy about it, but I don't think that the lower mid card guys were really held down by The Rock being on WrestleMania. The Rock came in and reinvented himself and did some of the greatest work of his career this year. Like, I don't think people really the final when he came back, I was like, oh, here we go. It's going to be, when The Rock says tribal, you say queef. Tribal, queef. Like, this half of the audience is going to say wrestle, and this half is going to say mania. Like, I thought it was going to be that Rock. And the final boss Rock, that was cool. Every time The Rock has come back, I would say since, the Cena feud, maybe, because he did some cool stuff in that, where we saw some of the old Rock. But Hollywood turned him into Dwayne. He wasn't The Rock anymore. And a lot of that young male audience from the late 90s, early 2000s that kind of grew up with him felt betrayed by that. They didn't recognize who the guy was. That's, this was our jabroni, beaten, pie eating, eyebrow raising, trailblazing son of a gun. And now he's, what can I say except you're welcome? And this was a return to that. This was he's got FU money now in spades from this deal that he made with TKO. And I don't think he has to play the game anymore. I think that's why you saw him say what he said about Joe Biden. I think that's why you got to see him be more edgy with the final boss. I think that we are just kind of seeing him unchained now, and I think that's a good thing.
Me too. I agree.
Makes for good TV. Good. You might not like him personally, but it makes for good TV. And at the end of the day, I would rather see him, okay, than any of like the lower mid-card guys on the roster. I'm sorry. Like I don't care about, you know, your star rising or your dream or any of that. I care about watching a good TV show. I'm the consumer. I'm the viewer. Okay. I care about being entertained, and he entertained me.
Well, speaking about entertainment, the last thing I want to touch on with Dave Meltzer, he gave the pre-show at Dynasty. Trent Beretta defeats Matt Sydal, 3.25 stars. And he gave The Rock versus Hulk Hogan, speaking of The Rock, at WrestleMania 18, 3 stars.
Well, look, The Rock versus Hulk Hogan, like Cody Rhodes once said that he asks his friends, what is the greatest pro wrestling match of all time? And he said if they say anything but The Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania 18, then he knows that they don't understand wrestling.
Yeah,
because that match is perfect.
It's one of the greatest matches of all time. To me, it's like probably my favorite match of all time.
I mean, that's a match that we were talking about, like the crowd hijacking the show. That's an example of a crowd that was hot. Like that was hot in a good way. Like that they were just cheering, cheering and booing, obviously, and booing the babyface and cheering the heel, but still they were making it known what they wanted. And I mean, man, good Lord, that match is John Cena said, if you mute that match, if you turn the crowd noise off, it stinks.
Right.
But the crowd makes that match. So Dave's an idiot.
And the selling from both competitors, not to take anything away from them, one of my all time. But yeah, Dave, he says Trent Beretta and Matt Sydal on the pre-show there, Marv, was much better. Your thoughts on Trent Beretta and Matt Sydal? You didn't see that shit, guys. That was Dave Meltzer. Dumb. Sorry, what are you going to say?
I have no thoughts on anything involving either of those guys.
Oh, but Trent Beretta had a nice heel turn. You didn't see that, man?
Yeah, great.
It's like Hogan coming back to WWE as NWO Hogan, dude. It's like that.
It involves Orange Cassidy, so I skipped it.
That's Dave Meltzer's dumb moment of the week.